Code 3 Americans, welcome back. In this video, we're going to go over inflation. It was a whammy again. 8.5% is the CPI numbers out, as I'm sure you've seen in the news. But this isn't just going to be going over what you're seeing in the mainstream media. We're going to reveal some evidence so that you can see the truth as to why that number is a bunch of garbage and have a better representation of what's really going on. So let's get into that. From the Wall Street Journal, U.S. inflation accelerated 8.5% in March, hitting a 4-decade high. And of course, when you hear the news, you're hearing central planners and politicians calling it the Putin price hike and all these things relative to energy. Well, this has been going on for a while, and the cake mix was being made several months ago, and now here it is in its true form. So let's go over a little bit of stuff here. First, I want to show you where the CPI comes from. There's a number of, just like anything in statistics with the government, there's a number of reports out there, and you'll notice right here, CPIU. I'll actually make this a little bigger so you can see it. But you'll notice that the CPIU number is what they use relative to CPI inflation you're seeing in the news. And what they're saying is all items between March 2021 and March 2022 represented an 8.5% consumer price increase. And then there's a couple columns that again, representing just 2021 and 2022. But the thing I want to draw your attention to is here. It's the shelter costs. And what you're going to find is the shelter costs are dramatically underrepresented. So if you look at the right down here, you'll see shelters reported. Sorry, it's kind of purple right there, but it's reported at 5% increase year over year. Now, if you've been out looking for a home or trying to build a home or whatever the case may be, we build homes, and I can tell you it is way over 5%. So if you look at this, you'll notice that they use something called rent of primary residence, owner's rent equivalent. I'll let you look that up on your own to see that methodology, but seems kind of crazy in a world full of the amount of data we have now with real estate reporting firms and the amount of data being aggregated there, as well as apartments and so forth on rentals. It seems kind of weird to use this antiquated method to measure homes. Now, why might they do that? Well, as you can see, it obviously produces a lower number. Therefore, it sounds better for politicians. I mean, really ask yourself, do they want you to see the real number or something that paints them in a better light? And none of this paints them in a good light, but they're certainly going to show you something that's most favorable to them. So let's look at this number is kind of key, and you're going to want to stick through this because we're going to break this again into two videos, but you're really going to see some evidence here. This shows 32.7% of the total CPI is shelter costs. Okay, so when you're seeing this 8.5% number in the news, in the mainstream media, people don't know what they're talking about. It's 32.7% of that number is shelter, and they're reporting that at 5% increase year over year. So keep that in mind as we go forward. And then you're going to hear them talk about the core price index, and you're going to see that's at 6.5%. This is where that number is coming from that you're seeing in the news. And they're saying that accounts for 79%. You'll see that they take out food and energy because they say that's too volatile. So in other words, they want something that they can say, well, if we didn't have the Putin price hikes at the gas pump, which, by the way, I remember fuel was going up way before he invaded Ukraine, they're saying that, well, we'd be better off. So just so you understand where those numbers are coming from. Now, I do want to call your attention to this real quick. In February 2022 to March 2022, so in a 1-month increase, you see a 1.3% jump in the CPI, and they're going to tell you that's because of energy costs and some food costs. But look at this. If you annualize that over 12 months, the trend is at 15.6%. Now, I doubt we're actually going to see this number hit 15.6%. We may see it go up some more, but the Federal Reserve is getting pretty serious about that. We're going to talk about that in a minute. But I think this number will start to come back down, but it's never going away. And we're going to show you why in video number 2. So you're definitely going to want to click on that. But just keep in mind 15.6%. And these are the numbers they will admit to. That's just what they're admitting to. I mean, and a politician looking to be elected, they're not gonna report something that makes them look worse. So if we look at um, this is the apartment list national median rent. So median rent, I pulled this off the internet. 17.1% they're showing rental increases, and I could have pulled this this information from anywhere. It'd be a little bit different, no matter where you got it, but it would all be high. Rents are way up. That's pushed apartment buildings way up in value and cap rates way down. But I follow a lot of people that have a ton of apartments buildings, thousands of doors, and they will all tell you these numbers are up here, sometimes even 20, 30, 40% in some areas. And keep in mind, shelter costs were reported as 5%. 5% in the last year is what they're saying. And you got to remember that accounts for almost 1/3 of the CPI number, and look how far it's being underreported. There's a lot of renters in this country. In fact, that's growing uh, in quantity. So let's look at this chart and let's see. Okay, the blue line, median sales price for new houses sold in the United States. And then the red line, median sales price for existing homes. So basically, new construction is blue and previous homes is red. And if you come back for video number 2, boy, are you going to see why this thing goes vertical and why there was so much upward pressure on entry level homes. Because when you think about it, existing homes are going to have more entry level homes than new homes, just typically because older homes are a little bit cheaper a lot of times than what new construction costs. But I want you to pay attention. March 2021, at the start of the illness, 359,600 is the price of a new home. Then we get to 2022, so we spiked up actually above that, but I couldn't get it to March. But 40,600, and what you're going to see is the year-over-year change was 11.4% on new construction. This is according to the St. Louis Fed. And on existing homes, it was up 9%. Now ask yourself, just from what you've seen in the news, maybe what you've seen in your own markets trying to buy a home, build a home, does that fit what you are seeing? And the answer is no. Remember, they're reporting 5% increase year over year for shelter, and that represents 1/3 of the number you're seeing on the news. So ask yourself, go do the math. If that 5% was, say, we split this at 10.2, or we take this 11.4 plus 9 plus the 17% on apartments, divide that by 3, see what you're going to come up with. And it's going to be substantially more than 5%. And ask yourself, if 1/3 of their calculation is off that far, what is the real CPI number that they would have to admit to? It's not going to be 8.5%. We're seeing real inflation numbers way into the double digits. We've done other videos on real costs we've experienced in our own operations. But what you're going to have to do is definitely click on the next video on the thumbnail there, so you can see some outstanding evidence that it's kind of convenient that the Federal Reserve started targeting the 2%. They came out and announced that at a particular time, and I want you to see what was going on about that time so you know why this isn't going away. And we're going to talk about, we're going to show some real examples of how these inflationary numbers may be somewhat convenient for politicians, yet turning out to be rather inconvenient for election cycles. So what I mean by that is relative to their deficit spending, the inflation could be quite beneficial. Yet now we're in an election season, not so beneficial. Maybe it got a little beyond what they wanted, but definitely check out the video at the thumbnail up there so you can watch that second one and don't miss out on that information. Till next time, we'll see you later. Have a good day. Let's make something happen.